God. Going too fast. I'm taking 3.
I'm going for the St. Louis now.
Oh, no.
Son of a bitch.
You get your 2?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at a battle in the Chapayev. Yes, I know. Thotgor, you don't put up many videos, and then you finally put up a video, and you talk about things you already talked about. Well, sort of, I guess. I mean, we could always talk about different things, but we definitely have seen the Chapayev before. Oh, that was a crazy noise. But yeah, we definitely have seen the Chapayev before, and she's a great ship. Now, I really enjoy the Kutsov, obviously, but the Chapayev is nice to play because she has radar, and you have to use, position to really make yourself felt against the enemy. Like in a Kutsov, you do, there is still positioning involved in a Kutsov, obviously, but you have smoke. You have smoke to cover up your mistakes and to cover when you're trying to get out, or just to sit in and rain death upon people. You do not get this in the Chapayev. You have no smoke whatsoever, but you still have to deal with the similar characteristics of Russian cruisers in that they have very little armor indeed, and are very, very easy to citadel and just take out. Sometimes, depending on my mood and, how ships have been going, I would argue that the British cruisers are better off than the Russian cruisers, because in the damn British cruisers, shells just go in and go straight through, and you get the old over-penetration doing very little damage. Whereas in the Chapayev and the Russian cruisers, the shells go in, they hit 1, maybe 2 or 3 citadels, and you die in like 5 minutes. So, just... sometimes, though, right? Depending on my mood. But it happens. But the Chapayev is a great platform for the guns. I mean, these 152s are very, very good. They have an excellent reload. The range is pretty decent. It's not as much as a Kutsov, but it's still pretty good. I do have Concealment Expert on the Captain. I can't remember if I have the module purchased on the ship or not, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. You're not going to be stealth firing with a Kutsov, with a Chapayev, unless you're utilizing cover and shooting over cover, which is something the Kutsov can, or the Chapayev can do quite well, given the Russian high firing arcs. Anyway, you can see that I have come over here to the eastern side of the map, and just sort of playing the defense is what I'm figuring, because if we look at the minimap, we notice that the majority of the team has gone over to the west. So playing defense in a cruiser isn't too bad. I do enjoy it. I mean, you can see that right now I'm, keeping the distance between myself and the enemy very, very wide, right? And it is something that you want to be very aware of when you're doing this sort of long-range maneuvers. And the question you need to ask yourself is, at this range and what you're currently able to fire at and dish out at the enemy, is that really enough damage to really help out the team? And does it suit the ship you're in, right? Because, if you're in a destroyer and you're not doing much damage, but you're spotting, you're preventing captures, you're smoking the allies, right? You're doing your job. But if you're in, say, a battleship or a cruiser and you're hanging out at the back and you really haven't amounted to a whole lot, like you can only shoot at 1 or 2 targets and the targets aren't giving you great shots and you have to hold off, right? And time has gone by and you haven't amounted and done anything, you need to push forward. And we can see that I've started to do that in the Chapayev, right? I was back there. I'm only really able to shoot at this guy here. Granted, I'm getting some good shots on, but, once I have a fire set on a target or a few fires set on a target, I do definitely want to switch to a different target and start dishing out damage on that player. And I really couldn't do that at that range. So I do come in, and it's almost like a strafing run, right? A slow strafing run. Granted, we're in ships, but just coming in, firing off my guns, trying to dish out, as much damage and fire as I can, and then opening up the distance once again, just constantly maneuvering like this. And what it does is it makes me hopefully less of a target for the enemies to fire at, right? And we can see that on my detected thing. I forget what it's called. This is the level 1 skill where we can tell, if a ship is targeting me or not. I am being targeted right now by some enemies, but for the majority of the opening foray here, I have not been targeted. No one's dished out any damage to me. In fact, now my destroyer friend has popped a layer of smoke there, which is great, and I'm able to pop my radar and help him out, and hopefully we can get some damage dealt to this enemy Eudoloi. Eudoloi I was pretty afraid of. I mean, the Eudoloi at tier 9 before the changes, and the Eudoloi now after the changes is still amazing. From what I understand, I don't have one. Garrett sent me a replay in the Kiev, but the replay, I guess there was a problem there, didn't actually go through. But I understand, talking to Garrett, that the Kiev is great at any tier. I do have a Kiev actually. After the changes took place, I had a Kiev, so now I have a Kiev at tier 8, and I have the Minsk, I think it is, at tier 7. I haven't tried it, but it's there. It's there. Anyway, doing some circles. I love doing circles in my cruisers because I've got the fast turret rotation speed, right? So I can break contact with the enemies, constantly maneuvering around, and keeping an eye out too for any incoming fire. Once I'm targeted and I can see that someone has targeted me, just being mindful of any incoming fire. We do have an enemy Bismarck here who unfortunately has decided to push out beyond the rock. Now you can tell that maybe this wasn't planned by the player, right? Because the player seems to be coming to a stop. Probably going into reverse, right? The player probably thought that he could slow down and stop before he came out. No, it's unfortunate. But anyway, we managed to set the player on fire. Players put out the fire, so we know that the repair ability is on cooldown and will be gone shortly. So any preceding fires we set to this Bismarck, they're just going to burn for their fruition. So this is perfect. This is a sort of situation that you want to have yourself in when you're in any sort of cruiser or ship that is HE dependent pretty much. Keeping an eye out for these sorts of things, and it really does all come back down to situational awareness. Keeping your situational awareness as you're moving along throughout the battle, kind of like driving a car, I guess. That sort of analogy just popped into my mind. As you're going down the street, right, you're keeping in mind of the car in front of you, the car behind you, the intersections, what's going on with like the people and pedestrians and all that crap. You're keeping this all in mind, and you're making decisions, informed decisions based on this information, right? Very similar thing when you're here in ships. So you can see that the enemy Bismarck is in a bad way, pretty much gone, but I can't fire it anymore, right? Those guys were getting pretty close, so I did have to use this island here, some cover. We do have some allied torpedoes coming into the enemy turrets, which is perfect. We can see a few of those did manage to bring the turrets down to about half health. My allies have finished off the Bismarck. We can see the Bismarck burning and sinking in the distance, which is just exactly what we want. And we know as well that the Tirpitz has unfortunately had to use his repair, because obviously you're going to want to stop the flooding, aren't you? So now any preceding fires that we set to the Bismarck will also burn for their fruition, which is really terrific. So taking a look at the minimap, we're receiving some incoming fire here, right? But taking a look at the minimap, because you always want to bring yourself back to the minimap, we notice that the western push has failed. Unfortunately, right? That was where the majority of my allied ships have gone, and a few of them have been destroyed. Some are pushing back, so it does look like over here on D, on the eastern side of the map, we are going to actually have to do something, which isn't too bad, because the enemies actually did put the majority of their forces over there in the west. So over here in the east, if we can just take out this bloody Eudoloi, or at least make this player go away, we should then easily be able to focus down some of our other allies. I talk about my allies, especially the destroyers, and providing smoke for you. I'm doing that exactly. I've got my allied destroyer here who's popped smoke for me. I've managed to get myself into the smoke using the smoke as cover. I've got my radar. This is, excellent situation that I find myself in here, and I get very lucky with those torpedoes. I am on fire times 2, which kind of sucks. I have no heal, so this damage is what I'm going to have to take, but I can still sit here for as long as I possibly can and try and finish off the enemy destroyer. Now, unfortunately, right, radar does run out. I think it's 11.4 kilometers is the radar range of a Russian radar system. Keep that in mind, destroyer captains. So that's gone. It's on cooldown. Have to wait for it, but whatever. I can maybe guess as to where the player is. Player's on really, really low health. We see some shots coming out of the smoke, and this is something else that we all need to work on, is just firing at things that are in smoke, right? Especially in my situation here, I'm in smoke. No one's detecting me while I'm firing these guns. It doesn't cost me anything to fire the guns, so why not fire my damn guns at where I think the enemy might be? And that's exactly what I'm doing here, hoping just to land a few shots. You know, maybe if I do, I can adjust and maybe get a few hits. But we'll also notice the Thotgor that is on the bow of my ship, right? Coming out from around the island here is cover broadside to me, so I'm going to clear the barrels out of my HE, maybe set a fire, that would be great, but we are going to load up the AP, because close range, a Thotgor, broadside, yes, we are going to do some pretty fantastic damage here. I do need to be aware of the fact that I'm still in smoke, which is probably going to be going very, very quickly, so I want to, you know, sort of preempt that, get my ship going, and get myself out of this smoke while just, you know, as much damage as I possibly can to the enemy Thotgor. So here we go, we're going to make our turn out of the smoke. We've got our shots going into the Thotgor. Every salvo so far has managed to land a citadel, which is good. Keep in mind, you know, it is this Russian AP in the lower caliber guns. So when you do get the citadels, it's not going to amount to maybe as much damage as you would expect, but it's still going to be, you know, excellent, consistent damage. So there we go. The Thotgor's now out of sight. I can't shoot him anymore, but the Thotgor's on very, very low health indeed. Maybe I switch over to my high explosive here, so maybe I can get some shots off on him here as he's going through the island. Manage to get the finishing strike. That would be amazing. Just let the player know, but one of my allies finishes him off, whatever. That's great. Player's dead. Pretty sure that that is all of the enemy ships who are over here. Maybe the Utiloi is still around, not 100% sure on that, but it is now definitely time to, you know, sort of charge forward. Although, I'm back here kind of still near our southern cap, right? And we can see my ally starts pinging the map there, and I'm thinking to myself, do I want to turn around? Should I turn around? So I do see the enemy AFK cruiser over there. So yeah, we're going to put some shots in there, but, you know, still questioning, should I turn around? Thinking about it, we'll probably still end up going forward, most likely, right? Because if I do turn around, then there's only going to be 2, 3, maybe 4, well, the majority of my ally ships left to push there to the north. But I would, and this is where Two Brothers, you know, and the channel comes into play here in the sort of the later game of the battle, is it gives you the option of going in there, taking that point, because they are going to, you know, most likely cap the southern point, and if you go down there alone without any sort of allies, you probably are just going to die, so no real point in wanting to do that. Instead, you can go and take the northern point, in this case for us, and then once we have it, we can push down through the channel and recap that zone, right? Kind of playing ring around the rosy there, but it's going to have to work for us in this instance. Because again, I mean, if I do turn around, there's only going to be my one ally back there who looks like he's bailing now as well. I mean, why would you want to be the only person who stays back there? Versus the majority of the enemy team remaining. I understand that there is only the one cruiser up here, I think, is left. And then the rest of the enemy ships are down there actually capping that southern point. So probably don't want to go down there just yet. Instead, continue to the north and try and take out these enemy ships. So we have the enemy cruiser here in front of us, and we're just going to start laying down some shells. It is an enemy Des Moines, so I was, you know, quite concerned over the fact that I probably would just get killed, but hoping that I don't, right? Because I'm on fairly low health, and I'm a pretty easy kill at this point in time for a Des Moines, I would think. But, you know, luckily I've got my allied New Orleans, surprisingly enough, up there in the front. And this is actually a good situation for the New Orleans to be in. Not necessarily really close in there, but close enough, and up against another American cruiser who has no torpedoes. So, you know, it's going to be all about just setting the fires, doing the damage over time, hopefully getting some nice, good AP shots in when the Des Moines is broadside. That's going to be the general hope here. Now, for me, it's all about just reining in the HE and just keeping consistent damage going on this enemy Des Moines. And again, luckily, I'm not being targeted. My allied New Orleans is taking all of that heat for now. Doesn't look like the New Orleans is going to be able to stick around too much longer. Now, we will note that the enemy has capped the southern point, so we don't have the southern point to rely on anymore, which is unfortunate. But again, remember the strategy and the plan here, right? Once we cap the northern point, we can then use the channel and hit up the southern point, and hopefully that might save us. So I do get a nice Confederate out of this, so not too bad. Dealt some damage, you know, around to different people. Always good to get those flags. Little more damage needed here for the enemy Des Moines, and then that player will be gone, and there we go. Don't need to worry about the enemy Des Moines. And then we look at the minimap, and we look behind us, and we can see that the enemies are way ahead of us. They're just going to push up the channel right away. So, alright. I have my allied Ibuki here, so immediately dumps torps down the channel, and, you know, excellent job there, obviously. And it does look as though the Ibuki is going to try and turn around and get his other set of torpedoes off on the other side, so that is good. Now we have a Zhao here, fairly high health, and I was pretty concerned, figured, it's probably the end here, Thotgor. I've got another enemy ship there at the end of the channel firing in on me as well, so I think it's a Kutsov, so we want to be very careful of that. So I use some cover, right, to get myself in between cover and the enemy Zhao. We're going to try and take out the Kutsov here, because we'll note some torpedoes coming in. Not going to be able to do it. Instead, the Zhao becomes, the primary threat here that we really want to do something about. We do have the Zhao on fire, which is great. We can see the Ibuki has launched the other torpedoes off. Unfortunately, those torpedoes do not take out the enemy Zhao, but they are still on track to do something to that enemy Kutsov, and one of those torpedoes should finish off the Kutsov, in fact. So we have some shots going in on the enemy Zhao, and once again getting real lucky here. Enemy Zhao not focused on me. Enemy Zhao was more concerned about some of my other allied ships, and kudos to my allies here, obviously, because we played one hell of a game over here on the eastern side of the map. Zhao goes down, perfect, don't need to worry about the player. We do still have the Kutsov there in the channel, but we also note the enemy destroyer who is now capping the eastern point. Pretty critical that we kill that destroyer. I know the Kutsov, is closer, but this Kutsov is most likely going to go down anyway if I don't finish, if my allies doesn't finish him off, I probably will. But that enemy destroyer could just ruin it for us, because we do really need to cap the B zone, and I think someone in my team had mentioned, probably cap the B zone. Luckily, we take out the Kutsov, take out the enemy destroyer. All is said and done. Victory is ours, and one hell of a game in the old Chapayev. And like I said, at the beginning of the video, really enjoy the Chapayev, and it always brings, sort of extra dimension to the battle when you do have radar. So 140,000 damage dealt, which is not too bad at all. We'll check where I finished, top of the team overall, and yes, I'm still sitting on rank 5. I've tried one more battle and I'm actually going to fall back to rank 6. So that's not great, but there has been, others who have already gotten to rank 1, and I kind of want to get to rank 1 as well. Like, congratulations obviously to Sabim and Bad Panda. Both of them have made it to rank 1. I'm trying, maybe this weekend. I think it's 11 days that I have left now. 11 days maybe. Anyway, not a bad game at all, and I do hope you guys enjoyed watching it through. As always, leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber, and as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.